In the sixth novena we see the satanic attacks on the Church. The trials of the truth that we saw in the fifth novena are common for humanity as a whole and bring rewards for all people of goodwill. But souls that through baptism now belong to the Church have to cope with an additional, very particular demonic intrigue. Here Satan does not attack to kill and disperse, but he deceives to steal, imitate, and unite humanity into an inclusive delusion that no one is allowed to escape from or to raise above. We discover the tactics of this ultimate intrigue in this sixth novena. It's the luciferian intrigue. In the light of the seraphim, first we see the woman suffering to give birth. She represents wisdom being recreated in the flesh. This is the fruitfulness of Christ's sacrifice on the cross and the completion of divine providence. In the same way that Jesus Christ is the eternal Word, a divine person, become flesh, the Church is recreated wisdom, the fruitful divine communion of a multitude of redeemed human persons. One person, of course, particularly represents created wisdom in such a way that in fact she is herself recreated wisdom. That is, of course, Our Lady, the Mother of God. In the light of the cherubim we see Satan, who has lost control. Faced with the woman, who lives according to the seven Beatitudes, his single perfidious head has split into seven angry heads. The serpent, archenemy of man, is transformed into a dragon. He becomes not only the source of errors in matters of faith, but also the cause of ideologies and esoteric lights, leading to despair and sterilizing God's gifts. Rather than contradicting divine truths or twisting them, Satan now wants to consume them and make them his own. But in the light of the thrones we see that Christ the truth is beyond his reach, and Christ's kingdom cannot be overwhelmed by him. It is invincible. But as God's gifts are confided to man, and man is responsible towards God for the fruitfulness of these gifts, Satan has no other option left than to twist mercy and counterfeit divine gifts of mercy. We see this mystery of Satan against Church and Our Lady in the light of the first or heavenly hierarchy of seraphim, cherubim, and thrones. In the light of the second or middle hierarchy, we see how and where Satan's tactics remain impotent. This is important for us to know, because in this light of the middle hierarchy, the soul rises out of the world towards heaven, and this light shines in the desert. The lordships show that we are safe and beyond condemnation in this desert, where time is measured by days, that is, by the sun of charity, and that we are sustained by an enigmatic food. On the other hand, the powers show that we also measure and organize this time with God in the desert, which means that we are responsible with God and cooperate with God. That's the two wings of adoration and of thirst of contemplation. And there, while we receive the enigmatic food and cannot see God's face yet, Satan is unmasked and we recognize our ancient enemy, cause of our suffering. In the middle, between the upper and lower levels of this desert, we see in the light of the forces that beyond our sights, in fact, a war is raging. It's the only real war in the final days of the world. It is the mother of all final wars. And because it is seen in the light of the forces, it is clear that it is a sacramental war. The weapons of this war are the sacraments. The accuser is thrown down and cannot accuse anymore. He has no other option left than to pretend that he is a new, even better forgiver. That spells sorrow for souls that are in the world, but have no desert to flee to and no light to guide them. In the world, three intrigues are now seen by the light of the third or earthly hierarchy. They are the three vain intrigues of the loser, who tries to rise again towards heights where he has lost his place. This is Satan's final but ultimately failing metastasis as Lucifer. In the light of the chiefs, the river from his mouth, meant to engulf and sweep away the church, is the temptation where human reason revolts against the mind, which is realistic by nature, but now agonizing because of nominalism, seen in the fifth novena. Reason, meant to be the servant of the realistic mind, revolts by replacing metaphysics and philosophy by all sorts of rationalism and dialectics. Only stark realism and earthly common sense can preserve souls from this danger. Next, in the light of the archangels, Lucifer is seen rising from the turbulent thoughts of man as they are stirred up by the imagination. This beast, rising from the sea, is a horrible imitation of the incarnated Word of God, an abominous shape of contradictory, blasphemous, and ultimately self-destructive ideologies. In the light of the common guardian angels, we see what this leads to. In a totalitarian, absolutely inclusive paradigm, the dignity, the responsibility, and the personal freedom of the human individual are annihilated. Here, technology is adored as miraculous, and trade becomes a means to control. Here, all seems lost. Yet in the seventh novena, we have already seen how everything is renewed, starting from individual, personal sainthood.